probably live forever, ever, probably live.
What's going on, people? It's your boy Tone, back with another video. Today we got Joe Rogan. First time hearing about Thomas Sowell's wisdom, so we're here for it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Come on.
So, do you know Thomas Sowell?
I know that name. Why do I know that name?
Thomas Sowell is a big, famous conservative. He's at Stanford. He's at the Hoover Institute, I think. Anyway, so, you know, within this, I mean, first, just to set all this up, we should set up briefly, how does culture work, right? And the way culture works is that it, like genetic evolution, it works based on blind copying. So what ends up happening is that you are in awe of people, right? You look up to people. And so you blindly copy the things they do. And specifically, you start by blindly copying from the outside, and then you work in. Thomas Sowell is a black guy, right? Okay. And Thomas Sowell has for years and years and years been trying to fight racism. But he's been trying to fight racism by having a conversation about culture. Right. And the fact that there are essentially two different sort of, you know, we're speaking broadly here, right? But this is for the purposes of communication. We're going to tell a simple story to start off with. Right. So broadly speaking, he puts two different cultures of people with dark skin next to each other. And one culture is these people from the West Indies. And one culture is this group of people who grew up in the South with slavery and all that sort of stuff. Now, what one group, the West Indies group, does really well. So a lot of the successful black people like Colin Powell, are originally from that cultural heritage. The other group is the group that you find in ghettos and African-American communities and all that sort of stuff. They don't do well, right? They don't get good education. They, you know, shoot each other. There are all these sorts of things. And the reason why Sowell has been telling this story is because he's been trying to say, you know, when liberals look at the people in ghettos, they say, racism, that's why they're not succeeding. And Sowell is saying, no, it's not. Because if you look at this group from the West Indies, they also came from the experience of slavery. There was slavery in the West Indies. They are also black, so they also face racism, and yet they do well. So it has to be something else. And that other thing is the fact that these black people who are in the South, there's always been a big question, were black people robbed of their culture? Or did they preserve their authentic African culture? And what Sowell is saying is that they were robbed of their culture, and so they picked up the culture of the people around them, and the people around them were rednecks. And if you look at the white redneck culture and the black redneck culture, they have a lot of the same values. They don't particularly respect education. They love Jesus. They use violence in their conflicts. And they, you know, there's just, you know, a lot of the same values and a lot of the same outcomes. And even Ebonics, which is, you know, Black English, is actually all from the west of England. So it's actually this...
What?
It's from the west of England. So, for example, if you go to places like Cornwall, there used to be this amazing ads on British TV, right, for this this Devon custard or whatever, and they would always say, Devon knows how they make it so creamy, and they all talk like this, right? And so it doesn't sound like Black English, but they do say things like, I be doing that, and we be doing this, and you be doing that, and they be doing that. And so there's that use of that copula be, right, where instead of saying I am, you are, he is, she is, they are, they just say I be, you be, we be, they be, which is the classic feature of Black English, African-American vernacular English. Right. Now, the point is that...
Mind blower.
Now, let's imagine that, how do you think that Thomas Sowell has been received by liberal America?
Because you do see that a little bit, or you do hear that a little bit in the southern states. You know what I'm saying? You do see, you know, right there. So it's like, you know, it's kind of interesting. We're gonna let him go and see where he's going with this. Come on.
Right. Now, the point is that...
Mind blower.
Now, let's imagine that, how do you think that Thomas Sowell has been received by liberal America? Not well. Not well. And so, for example, Sowell has a book called Black Rednecks, White Liberals. Okay? And his whole point is that, you know, if you actually, and, you know, again, like Sowell is, you know, he researches the shit out of this stuff. He really does his work. Now, if you look at the experience of African Americans after slavery, they do really, they start to make real progress, right? And a large part of the reason why they make progress is because you start to get a lot of people from New England, either, black people from New England or white people from New England, who come down and sort of reshape the culture. They create these schools and they're teaching those New England values, right? It's those Puritan values of hard work, tenacity, all of that sort of stuff. And so there's all this progress. And you have people like Booker T. Washington.
Wait, hold on. What? So is he not saying that after slavery, the reason that we're actually start making progress is because he's not saying it's because we're not slaves anymore. He's saying because people came down from other places and taught us good values? Hold on.
If you look at the experience of African Americans after slavery, they start to make real progress. Right?
Okay.
And a large part of the reason why they make progress is because you start to get a lot of people from New England, either, black people from New England or white people from New England, who come down and sort of reshape the culture. They create these schools and they're teaching those New England values, right? It's those Puritan values of hard work, tenacity, all of that sort of stuff. And so there's all this progress. And you have people like Booker T.
All right, so I don't know about that. I don't agree with that statement because it makes more sense to believe that they're doing better after slavery because slavery it ended. So you're going to have the same rights and you got the same opportunity. Well, not same, because that took a long time. We still fighting for rights today. More rights and more opportunities for black people versus being, during slavery. That to me had more of an impact for success when you give everybody the same opportunity to be successful. I'm not sure. Maybe he's going to link it here on the next statement. So let's let him rock. Come on.
Washington. And Booker T. Washington was an actual slave. And then after he got his freedom, he got to go work in a salt mine, which is literally the worst job ever. And in Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery, he tells this great story about seeing a schoolhouse, right? And that, he thought that going into a schoolhouse was about as close to heaven on earth as you could get.
Whoa.
Like, this is a dude who wanted an education really, really badly. And that's a lot of what you find in the, early black experience in, the post-slavery period. And in fact, blacks, before sort of World War II actually had higher.
So it's kind of like, after slavery, they wanted an education. They wanted a better life. All right, that's normal. That's common. That's not like just the smart people. You know what I mean? You would think majority of slaves that were freed would want a better life, right? That's not because, it's not because of a school or something like that, or not because of a teacher. It's because that's just normal, I guess, human nature is to become better and to survive and do the best you can. You know what I mean? I don't know. Come on.
Rates of marriage than whites, all of these sorts of things that, are now supposedly a problem. And then there's this turnaround, right? The black experience starts to go south, right? It starts to get worse.
And what year is this around?
This is post-World War II, right? So
post-slavery, black people experience a rebounding.
They're starting to make some progress. There's ambition.
Progress.
Yeah. And I mean, if in terms of books
There's
to read,
ambition.
because a large part of what I'm trying to do in general is really let's move to the.
Because during slavery, they weren't ambitious enough. They didn't have any. They weren't they weren't problem solvers during slavery. That's what the problem was. Come on, man, let's go.
A large part of what I'm trying to do in general is really let's move to the place of all people are created equal. Like, let's remove all these stupid distinctions, right, and really live that principle. And the problem is that in order to really live that principle, you need a new narrative that beats slavery. So, it's not, if you go and talk to racists, you can't just say racism is bad. Like, that doesn't destroy racism. Right. What destroys racism is when you make sense of the things that they know, right? They see, people who are violent in the ghettos, or they see crime, or they see a lack of education, or they see that Africa is poor. And you're able to tell a better story that makes sense of the things that they know, but also comes out with the conclusion, we actually all have the same potential.
All right, guys. So that was Joe Rogan's first time hearing about Thomas Sowell. I think all people should know more about Thomas Sowell and actually, watch his own videos and see what he says firsthand versus hearing about him third party, because information may get conflicted, you know what I mean? So there are plenty of videos out here of Thomas Sowell, and there are plenty of people reacting to him. So the word is definitely spreading about him fast. So I always suggest go straight to the source, you know what I'm saying? But As always, man, if you guys found this content interesting, if you guys learned something you didn't know before, comment down below. Make sure you guys click, like, subscribe. And as always, man, y'all be easy out there, man. Peace.
If I should die at a young age, I thank the Lord for giving me a break. If I should die at a young age, I thank the Lord for giving me a break. Cause I'll probably live forever, ever, probably live forever,